Look around you. Every smile you see, every argument you hear, every promotion, and every sudden betrayal you have ever witnessed is driven by invisible forces. Most people walk blindly through their entire lives, reacting to the masks people wear, completely unaware of the dark machinery operating beneath the surface. Robert Greene spent years decoding this machinery, condensing it into the 18 laws of human nature. But knowing just 1 or 2 laws is like trying to play a game of chess with half the pieces missing. You will eventually lose. Today we are changing that. This is not a quick summary or a brief overview. This is a complete, unfiltered masterclass covering all 18 laws in one continuous journey. It is a deep dive designed to permanently rewire how you see yourself and everyone around you. So put on your headphones or just set your phone down in a quiet corner and simply listen. Let the world fade away for a while. We are about to decode the human animal. Let's begin with the first law. The first law exposes the greatest myth of the human mind, the illusion of rationality. You wake up every day believing that you are in control of your choices, that your decisions are based on logic, facts, and a clear assessment of reality. This is a comforting lie. The truth is that human beings are deeply, fundamentally irrational. We are driven by ancient emotional centers in the brain that process fear, desire, and insecurity long before our logical mind even wakes up. When you are arguing with someone, you believe you are exchanging ideas. You are not. You are colliding with their hidden fears, their bruised egos, and their desperate need to be right. When a colleague suddenly turns hostile over a minor detail, it is never about the detail. It is a visceral reaction to feeling threatened or disrespected. To master human nature, you must first master yourself through the strategy of forced detachment. You must increase your reaction time. When you feel the heat of anger, the rush of anxiety, or the sudden urge to retaliate, you must train yourself to freeze. Step back from the emotion as if you are stepping out of your own body. Look down at the situation from above. The moment you react impulsively, you lose your power. You become a puppet dancing on the strings of your own neurochemistry. The strategist cultivates a mind of ice. You let others drown in their emotional storms while you remain perfectly still, observing their irrationality and using their lack of control to your absolute advantage. Only when the emotion has passed do you make your move. Once you recognize these emotional undercurrents, you will inevitably collide with the second law, the gravitational pull of self-obsession. We are all on a spectrum of narcissism. It is a survival mechanism, but the danger lies in those who reside in the darkest end of that spectrum, the deep narcissists. These individuals have a broken sense of self. They are like black holes. They have no internal light, so they must constantly extract validation, attention, and energy from everyone around them. In the beginning, they do not appear toxic. They appear charismatic. They mirror your desires. They shower you with attention, and they make you feel as though you are the center of their world. But this is merely the trap being set. Once you are hooked, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly, every conversation revolves around their drama. Your problems are minimized. Their minor inconveniences are treated like global catastrophes. If you challenge them or withdraw your attention, they will react with a cold, terrifying rage. To survive the second law, you must shift your own focus outward. Transform your natural self-interest into a weapon of supreme empathy. Become a reader of people. When you encounter a deep narcissist, do not try to heal them. Do not try to outsmart them in a game of egos. You simply starve them. You offer them no emotional reaction, no anger, and no excessive praise. You become a gray rock. Without the fuel of your attention, they will quickly move on to find an easier victim. This universal desperation for approval leads directly into the third law. Because we are terrified of being judged, and because we harbor dark desires we dare not show the world, we become actors. We construct a second face. This is the law of role-playing. Society demands that we wear a mask of politeness, confidence, and morality. We practice our smiles, we control our posture, and we rehearse our lies. But the human brain is not flawless. The true hidden emotion always leaks out. It flashes across the face in a fraction of a second. It echoes in a sudden change of vocal pitch. It shows in the tension of the jaw or the tapping of a foot. You must become a master decoder of the human shadow. Stop listening to words. Words are the cheapest, most easily manipulated tools of deception. People will use words to tell you they are loyal while their eyes dart toward the door. They will use words to tell you they are happy for your success, while their facial muscles briefly tighten in disgust. Begin to observe the non-verbal world. Watch how people act when they think no one is looking. Watch how they treat those who are beneath them in power. Watch the micro-expressions that betray their real intentions. When you learn to see through the masks, you will never be caught off guard by a sudden betrayal again. You will know their move before they even realize they are going to make it. Behind these masks and mirrors lies the bedrock of the human soul, the focus of the fourth law. This is the law of compulsive behavior. When you meet someone new, they present a blank slate. They tell you stories of their past, painting themselves as the victim of circumstance or the hero of their own journey. They promise that they have changed, that they will be reliable, that they will never repeat old mistakes. Do not listen to their promises. Character is not shaped by words. Character is deeply ingrained, repetitive fate. People are compelled to repeat the same toxic patterns, the same disastrous relationships, and the same professional failures over and over again. Character is a metal that only reveals its true nature under the heat of stress. How does a person act when they lose power? How do they behave when an unexpected crisis hits? Do they take responsibility, or do they immediately seek a scapegoat? To navigate this law, you must become a historian of human behavior. The past is the only accurate prophet of the future. If a man has betrayed his last 3 partners, he will betray you. If an employee has a history of fleeing when the work gets difficult, they will abandon you at your most critical moment. Do not fall into the trap of thinking that you are the exception, that your influence will somehow change their fundamental nature. You must evaluate people strictly by the cold, hard evidence of their past actions. When you choose your allies, choose those whose character is built on a foundation of resilience and loyalty, not those built on a house of cards. Once you understand the deep-rooted patterns of human behavior, you must confront the invisible force that pulls us all like puppets. The law of short-sightedness and desire. This is the 5th law, and it is the most frequent cause of human ruin. People are naturally obsessed with the present. We are biological creatures designed to react to immediate threats and immediate pleasures. We are attracted to the person who offers a quick solution, the investment that promises a fast return, or the leader who speaks with the loudest, most confident voice. But this focus on the immediate is a mental trap. It creates a tunnel vision that blinds you to the long-term consequences of your actions. To master this law, you must develop a long-term perspective. You must train your eyes to look past the immediate noise and see the shifting patterns in the distance. When everyone around you is panicking over a sudden crisis, you must remain calm and ask, where will this lead in 6 months? In a year? Most people are slaves to their emotions of the moment. They make decisions based on a temporary mood, and then they spend years cleaning up the wreckage. The strategist, however, lives in the future. You must be willing to endure a small loss today to secure a massive victory tomorrow. Never let your desire for a quick fix lead you into a long-term prison. Elevate your vision above the crowd, and you will see the path that others are too blind to find. This ability to see ahead leads directly into the 6th law, the law of defensive behavior. As you move through the world and attempt to exert your influence, you will encounter a wall. This wall is not built of stone, but of the human ego. Every person you meet is wrapped in a protective layer of self-opinion. They believe they are intelligent, they believe they are good, and they believe they are autonomous. If you challenge these beliefs, if you try to give them advice, if you point out their mistakes, or if you try to force them to change, they will immediately retreat into a defensive crouch. They will stop listening to you, and they will begin to resent you. The master of human nature never uses force. They use the strategy of indirect influence. If you want someone to follow your lead, you must first confirm their self-opinion. Make them feel intelligent. Make them feel as though the idea you are giving them was actually their own. When people feel secure in their ego, their defenses drop. This is the art of psychological Aikido. Instead of pushing against them, you pull them toward your goals by making them feel powerful. Never make someone feel inferior or incompetent, unless you intend to make them a permanent enemy. By softening their defenses with subtle validation, you gain the keys to their mind, allowing you to guide them wherever you wish without them ever realizing they are being led. But even with the most careful influence, you will find yourself in conflict. This is where the seventh law becomes your primary weapon, the law of self-sabotage and the shadow of strategy. Most people approach life as a series of disconnected events. They react to a problem, solve it, and wait for the next one. They have no overarching plan. They are like a ship without a rudder, tossed by the waves of chance. Because they lack a clear sense of purpose, they often sabotage their own success. They grow bored when things are going well, or they become overconfident and make a fatal mistake. They are playing checkers while the world is playing chess. To overcome this, you must adopt a strategic mindset. Everything you do must serve a larger goal. You must stop thinking about winning a single argument or getting a single job. Instead, think about the position you want to occupy in 5 years. A strategist knows that sometimes the best move is to wait. Sometimes the best move is to retreat. You must cultivate a ruthless clarity about your objective. Every person you associate with, every book you read, and every move you make should be a calculated step toward that mountaintop. When you have a grand strategy, the minor setbacks of life no longer bother you. They are merely obstacles to be navigated. You become a force of nature, relentless, focused, and impossible to distract. Finally, we reach the eighth law, which governs the air you breathe and the space you occupy. The law of role-playing and public perception. You must realize that you are always on a stage. People are judging you every second, and they are not judging the real you. They are judging the image you project. Most people are careless with this image. They show their insecurities. They share too much personal information, and they allow their moods to dictate their public face. In doing so, they give away their power. They become predictable and easily categorized. The master of this law understands that perception is reality. You must treat your public persona as a work of art. You must control the information that others have about you. Create an air of mystery. Do not be too available or too easy to understand. When you are mysterious, people will fill the silence with their own imaginations, making you appear more powerful and more significant than you might actually be. Learn to play different roles for different audiences. Be the confident leader when strength is required. Be the humble student when you need to gather information. You are not being fake. You are being strategic. You are protecting your inner core by managing the theater of the world. By controlling how you are seen, you control how you are treated. The world is a masquerade ball. If you show up without a mask, you are the only one at risk. As you descend deeper into the mechanics of the human soul, you must confront a reality that most people spend their entire lives denying. We are not the wholesome, consistent individuals we pretend to be in the light of day. This brings us to the ninth law, the law of repression and the shadow. Every one of us carries a dark side, a collection of impulses, desires, and aggressive tendencies that we have been taught to bury since childhood in order to be civilized. But energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be hidden. The more you try to suppress your shadow, the more power it gains over you. It leaks out in moments of fatigue, in sudden outbursts of anger, or in the way you judge others with excessive harshness. To master human nature, you must become a detective of the shadow. Look at those who project an image of extreme purity, those who are always the first to moralize or condemn. Often their shadow is the most active, driving them to find in others the very sins they are hiding within themselves. To gain true power, you must stop running from your own darkness. You must integrate it, recognize your capacity for aggression, and use it as a source of energy and resolve. When you accept your shadow, you become a more authentic and formidable presence. You no longer need to perform for the world because you have seen the basement of your own soul and survived. By knowing your own darkness, you become immune to the manipulations of others who are still blinded by their own hidden demons. But even as you find balance within yourself, you must remain vigilant against the silent poison of the 10th law, the law of envy. Envy is the most hidden emotion because it is the most painful to admit. No one says, "I am sabotaging you because your success makes me feel inferior." Instead, they mask their envy as constructive criticism, concern for your well-being, or moral outrage. Envy is a visceral reaction to seeing someone else possess what we believe we deserve. It is especially dangerous among peers, friends, colleagues, and family members who feel that your rise highlights their stagnation. The master of this law understands that success is a double-edged sword. Every victory creates a secret enemy. Therefore, you must learn the art of strategic humility. Never boast about your achievements. When you succeed, talk about your luck, the mistakes you made, and the heavy price you paid. Give the envious the gift of pity. If they think you are suffering despite your success, their envy will sleep. Watch for the micro-expressions of pain that flash across someone's face when you share good news. If you see it, do not trust them. Move in silence and keep your most ambitious plans hidden. Remember, it is far better to be respected from a distance than to be envied from up close. As you navigate the envy of others, you must also guard against a danger that comes from within, the 11th law, the law of grandiosity. Success is a powerful drug. When things go well, when people begin to applaud you and follow your lead, a dangerous illusion begins to take root in your mind. You begin to believe that you are special, that you possess a golden touch, and that the normal rules of reality no longer apply to you. This is the state of grandiosity. It disconnects you from the very work and the very people that made you successful in the first place. You stop listening to feedback, you take unnecessary risks, and you begin to believe your own myth. The fall from grandiosity is always violent and absolute. To protect yourself, you must maintain a relentless connection to reality. You must be your own harshest critic. No matter how high you rise, never lose sight of the small, practical details of your craft. Surround yourself with people who are not afraid to tell you the truth, and listen to them when they point out your flaws. Real power does not come from believing you are a god. It comes from the practical mastery of your environment and the people within it. Keep your feet on the ground, even when your head is in the clouds. The moment you believe you are untouchable is the moment you become most vulnerable to a strike from the shadows. Finally, we reach the 12th law, which deals with the deep-seated balance of our inner nature, the law of gender fixation. Each of us is a complex mix of masculine and feminine energies, regardless of our biological sex. However, society and our own insecurities often force us into rigid roles. We feel we must project a caricature of strength or nurturing to be accepted. This fixation limits your creativity and your ability to influence others. A man who is terrified of his own sensitivity becomes a rigid, predictable brute. A woman who is terrified of her own ambition becomes passive and easily manipulated. The master of human nature seeks to reunite these fractured parts of the soul. This is what Robert Greene calls the anima and animus. By tapping into the opposite energy within you, you develop a multidimensional perspective. When you balance masculine drive with feminine intuition, you become more creative, more persuasive, and more resilient. You can read the hidden emotions in a room while still maintaining the cold focus required to win. You become a person who cannot be easily categorized or predicted. In a world of specialists and caricatures, the person who is whole is the one who possesses the ultimate advantage. You are not just a man or a woman, you are a complete human being, capable of accessing every tool in the psychological arsenal. As we move forward, Remember that these laws are not just observations. They are instruments of war. You have looked into the shadow. You have identified the envious. You have checked your own grandiosity, and you have balanced your inner nature. You are becoming a strategist of the soul. But the path is long, and the most complex laws of all, those governing our sense of purpose and our place in the collective, are still waiting to be revealed. Stay focused. The mask is thinning, and the truth is closer than ever. Once you have learned to navigate the dark waters of envy and grandiosity, you must confront the force that dissolves the individual entirely, the law of aimlessness. This is the 13th law, and it is the silent killer of potential. Most people do not live. They merely react. They wander from one job to another, one relationship to another, guided by the temporary winds of emotion or the expectations of others. They have no internal compass. This lack of direction creates a deep underlying anxiety. Because they have no grand purpose, every minor setback feels like a catastrophe, and every distraction becomes a refuge. They are easy to manipulate because they don't know where they are going, making them the perfect tools for those who do. To master this law, you must discover your life's task. You must find that one pursuit that aligns with your unique character and your deepest inclinations. Real power is not about dominating others. It is about the supreme focus that comes from having a mission. When you have a clear sense of purpose, you develop a natural immunity to the trivialities of life. You stop wasting energy on petty conflicts or social drama. Your time becomes your most precious resource, and you guard it with a lethal intensity. While the world is drowning in a sea of meaningless choices, the purposeful individual moves with a terrifying speed and clarity. Do not wait for a sign. Find your mission. Commit to it with a religious devotion, and watch as the world steps aside to let you pass. But even with a mission, you are constantly under pressure to disappear. This brings us to the 14th law, the law of conformity. We are social animals, and for thousands of years, to be cast out of the tribe meant certain death. This ancient fear is still hardwired into your brain. It drives you to think like everyone else, to dress like everyone else, and to suppress your most original ideas for fear of being different. This is the pull of the collective shadow. When people gather in groups, their individual intelligence drops, and their collective emotions, fear, anger, and excitement, take over. The group demands that you lose yourself in its rhythm. The strategist understands the law of conformity, but refuses to be its victim. You must practice the art of fitting in on the surface while remaining completely independent on the inside. Never waste your energy trying to convince a group of a radical new idea. They will only attack you. Instead, wear the mask of the conformist. Use the group's language, follow their rituals, and blend into the background. But in your private world, maintain a cold and ruthless individuality. Observe the group as if you were an outsider studying a strange tribe. Use the collective energy when it serves your purpose, but never let your soul be absorbed by the hive mind. True power belongs to the one who can walk among the crowd without ever becoming a part of it. Finally, we arrive at the 15th law, the invisible cage of the mind, the law of fickleness and indecision. We live in an age of infinite choices, and for many, this abundance has become a curse. People spend months, even years, paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong decision. They wait for perfect conditions that never come. They seek endless advice, hoping someone else will take the responsibility for their life. This indecision is not a sign of caution. It is a sign of cowardice. It stems from a deep-seated fear of consequences and a lack of trust in one's own judgment. While the indecisive person waits, the window of opportunity closes, and the momentum of life passes them by. To overcome the 15th law, you must embrace the strategy of bold action. You must realize that a wrong decision made with conviction is often better than no decision at all. Even if you make a mistake, the act of moving forward provides you with information and experience that sitting still never can. Speed is a psychological weapon. When you act decisively, you project an aura of power and confidence that intimidates your rivals and inspires your allies. Most people are naturally hesitant. When they see someone who knows exactly what they are doing, they instinctively follow. Train yourself to set deadlines for your choices. Once the decision is made, burn the bridges behind you. Do not look back, do not second guess, and do not entertain regret. The strategist knows that the world belongs to the bold, and that fortune favors the person who is willing to strike while the iron is hot. As you master the art of decisive action, you will inevitably collide with the 16th law, the law of aggression. Look at the modern world around you. We wear tailored clothing. We speak in measured, polite tones, and we communicate behind screens. But beneath this incredibly thin veneer of civilization, the primitive, territorial human animal is still very much alive. Aggression has not disappeared from our society. It has simply evolved. It has become sophisticated, quiet, and deeply deceptive. The most dangerous people you will encounter are rarely the ones who yell or use physical intimidation. Instead, they use the refined weapons of the passive aggressor. They are the colleagues who conveniently forget to include you in a vital email. They are the friends who deliver a vicious insult wrapped perfectly in a joke. They are the individuals who play the perpetual victim, weaponizing the sympathy of the group to quietly isolate and destroy you. The greatest mistake you can make is to assume that everyone you meet desires peace and cooperation. They do not. They desire power, and they want yours. To survive and thrive in this environment, you must cultivate a presence of controlled, silent intimidation. You must completely detach yourself from your own reactive emotions. When someone attacks you, whether directly or indirectly, do not give them the satisfaction of your anger. Meet their aggression with a cold, terrifying stillness. Force them into the light. Ask them to explain their sarcastic jokes. Confront their passive sabotage with hard, undeniable evidence. When a predator realizes that you can see clearly in the dark and that you are prepared to strike back with surgical precision without losing your temper, they will retreat. You do not need to become a tyrant to win this game, but you must be fully capable of destroying one. As you secure your boundaries against the attacks of others, you must recognize an invisible tide that constantly influences your thinking. This brings us to the 17th law, the law of generational myopia. We are all born into a specific sliver of time, a unique cultural era that shapes our values, our beliefs, and our baseline understanding of reality. This creates a profound and dangerous illusion. Every single generation, without exception, looks at the past as primitive and views the future as chaotic, genuinely believing that their specific era represents the ultimate peak of human enlightenment. This generational arrogance blinds you to the cyclical, repetitive nature of history. The older generation inevitably becomes rigid. They grow defensive, fiercely protecting the power, institutions, and wealth they have accumulated, dismissing the youth as foolish, entitled, and dangerous. Conversely, the younger generation becomes intoxicated by their own novelty. They are eager to tear down structures they do not yet fully understand, viewing their elders as obsolete obstacles standing in the way of progress. The master strategist refuses to be trapped in this temporal prison. You must learn to step outside the psychological bubble of your own generation. Study the deep, recurring patterns of human history, and you will quickly realize that human nature never changes. Only the costumes and the technologies are new. If you are young, you must actively seek out the ancient, pragmatic wisdom that your peers foolishly despise. If you are older, you must suppress your ego, absorb the restless energy of the youth, and adapt to their new platforms. By standing firmly between the generations, you become a bridge. You become fluent in the languages of both the past and the future, granting you a level of foresight that makes you untouchable by the passing of time. Finally, we reach the bedrock of the human condition, the ultimate foundation of all psychology, and the 18th law, the law of death denial. It is the shadow that hangs over every other aspect of human behavior. From the exact moment we take our first breath, we are dying. Yet human society is constructed as one massive, elaborate conspiracy to hide this terrifying truth. We obsess over the superficial lives of celebrities. We drown our minds in endless digital entertainment, and we engage in petty, meaningless arguments, all to distract ourselves from the ticking clock. This denial of death is the root source of all your deepest anxieties. Because you act as though you have infinite time, you tolerate a life of mediocrity. You endure toxic relationships. You stay in unfulfilling situations, and you let the fear of judgment dictate your choices, constantly lying to yourself that you will make a brave change tomorrow. But tomorrow is the ultimate illusion. The master of human nature embraces the reality of death, not with despair, but with a fierce, burning gratitude. This is the ancient practice of memento mori, remembering your mortality. When you truly internalize the absolute fact that you will die, and that it could happen at any unpredictable moment, the trivialities of daily life instantly lose their grip on your mind. The opinions of envious people mean absolutely nothing. The fear of failure vanishes entirely, because failing is nothing compared to the unspeakable tragedy of never having truly lived. The constant awareness of death is the ultimate psychological weapon. It strips away your hesitations. It gives you a sense of extreme, unrelenting urgency. It forces you to focus your energy only on your true purpose and the people who genuinely matter. When you walk through the world with the cold companion of your own mortality whispering in your ear, you are no longer a slave to the fears that paralyze the masses. You are awake. You are lethal. You are free. You have reached the end of the labyrinth. You have traversed the full spectrum of human nature, uncovering 18 raw, uncomfortable truths about the human animal, including the one staring back at you in the mirror. Most people will never hear these words. They prefer the comforting lies of society. And even among those who do stumble upon this knowledge, very few possess the focus and discipline to listen until the very end.